should meet and transact their business in this honorable house on this 21st of day of July 2026. I am further advised by proclamation that the affairs of this youth parliament will be conducted with wisdom, temper, and prudence, and that upon all occasions the rights of all citizens and members will be respected and recognized.
Honorable members, I am not unmindful of the honor which you have conferred on me today in electing me to this highest of office, that of your Speaker and your servants. It will be my aim and duty to uphold the principles and traditions of this House and secure for each member the right to express his or her opinions within the limits necessary to preserve the decorum of this House. I pledge to recognize the rights and privileges of the honorable members and the House itself. I wish also to assure you that I will preside in a manner which will facilitate the orderly transaction of debate, and above all, I will seek to be fair and impartial in the decisions, the rules of Parliament, and you yourselves entrust to me. This House is now in session.
Confirm of minutes. Announcements by Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, let me remind you of a few rules governing the sitting of this House. Firstly, members ought not to read their speeches, but rather refer to the notes. Members must also wait to be acknowledged upon standing. Additionally, members should ensure that they adhere to the other standing orders that this House carries. Additionally, be mindful of these rules and other standing orders as you proceed into today's sitting. We, the National Youth Parliament, are happy today to witness the debate for the St. David's Youth Parliament. And I remind all strangers in the gallery that they are to remain silent, not to show support or opposition for any member of the House, and they are to otherwise conduct themselves in a manner as to not disrupt the proceedings of this honorable House. These are my announcements.
Motions.
Honorable Youth Member and Opposition Leader.
Good afternoon, everyone. The motion for today is the balance between development and environmental protection.
Honorable Member, I believe you need to read out the entire motion before we may proceed.
The balance between development and environmental protection. A resolution to determine national policies priority on physical and infrastructural development in relation to the protection of Grenada's topography, coastline, and natural resources. Whereas Grenada's National Sustainable Development Plan 2025 commits the nation under National Goal number 3 to environmental sustainability and security, yet Grenada's economy is increasingly dependent on construction, real estate, and tourism-related development for growth, foreign investments, and employment. And whereas this development, including coastal construction, hillside clearing, and quarrying, has in documented instances being linked to coastal erosion, deforestation, sedimentation of reefs, and increased risk of flooding and landslide during the rainy season. And whereas the natural environment, including beaches, forests, watersheds, and reefs constitute both an ecological asset and an economic asset, particularly for the tourism sector and for the food security of future generations of Grenada. Be it resolved that in fulfillment of its environmental sustainability commitments, the government enhance environmental safeguards through effective implementation of environmental impact assessments and stakeholder consultation as a condition of approval for all coastal hillside and large-scale development projects. Be it also resolved that the government expand investment in reforestation, watersheds management, and ecosystem restoration initiative advancing national progress towards Sustainable Development Goal 15 in areas affected by quarrying and land clearing. And be it further resolved that, consistent with government's commitment to strengthen governance and institutions, that there is public participation through existing consultation mechanism for development projects that significantly alters the natural landscape.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Members, the question proposed to the Youth Parliament of the Parish of St. David is, be it resolved that in fulfillment of its environmental sustainability commitments, the government enhance environmental safeguards through effective implementation of environmental impact assessments and stakeholder consultations as a condition of approval for all coastal, hillside, and large-scale development projects. Be it also resolved that the government expand investments in reforestation, watershed management, and ecosystem restoration initiatives advancing national progress toward Sustainable Development Goal 15 in areas affected by quarrying and land clearing, and be it further resolved that, consistent with government's commitment to strengthen governance and institutions, that there is public participation through existing consultation mechanisms for development projects that significantly alter the natural landscape. Honorable Youth Member for St. George's Southeast and Opposition Leader.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable House, worthy opponents, and esteemed audience, a pleasant good afternoon. Today, we stand not just to debate a motion, but to challenge an idea that affects us all. Permission to go through my speech, please, Mr. Speaker.
Permission granted.
I thank you. Mr. Speaker, the motion before the House is the balance between development and environmental protection. Today, I rise in strong support of the resolution. Be it resolved that in fulfillment of its environmental sustainability commitments, the government enhance environmental safeguards through effective implementation of environmental impact assessments and stakeholder consultation as a condition of approval for all coastal, hillside, and large-scale development projects. Mr. Speaker, as a proud Grenadian, I believe this resolution is not only reasonable, it is necessary. Grenada is known as the Spice Isle. We are blessed with the beautiful beaches, lush hillsides, rivers, forests, and marine life that attract visitors from all over the world. Our environment is not just scenery. It is part of our identity, our economy, and our future. Yet every year, we see more construction, more land clearing, and more pressure on natural resources. The question before us is simple, Mr. Speaker. Should major development projects be carefully assessed before approval? My answer is yes. Environmental impact assessment should be mandatory and strictly enforced because they protect our environment, protect our people, and protect Grenada's long-term development. According to IRI.org, and I quote, environmental impact assessment is a systematic process of evaluating the environmental consequences of a proposed project or development, aiming to ensure that environmental considerations are integrated into decision-making. It is a crucial tool for promoting sustainable development by identifying potential negative impact and proposing mitigation measures, end quote. According to Britannica.com, and I quote, sustainable development approach to social, economic, and environmental planning that attempts to balance the social and economic needs of present and future human generations with the imperative of preserving or preventing undue damage to natural environment, end quote. Mr. Speaker, environmental impact assessment helps protect our environment. When a large hotel, housing development, or commercial project is being built near the coast or on a hillside, it can affect beaches, coral reefs, rivers, wildlife, and forests. Once these ecosystems are damaged, they are often difficult or impossible to restore. Imagine this: a developer clearing a hillside with a proper assessment. Heavy rainfalls could wash soil into nearby rivers and eventually into sea. The sediment can damage coral reefs and reduce fish populations. Mr. Speaker, let us take a look at what's happening in Buseju and Woodford with the Reno construction group from St. Lucia. According to Lide, and I quote, the pre-action letter, land clearance, and road construction of excavation work have already taken place, with reported impacts including destruction of habitat near to endangered Grenada doves, runoff affecting the Deuce River, disruption to local infrastructure and farmland, end quote. According to St. Vincentine, and I quote, Christine Henry, a resident of over 30 years, expressed concerns about environmental degradation and the negative impact on the quality of life for those living nearby. She also noted that at least one individual had to abandon plans to build a home in the Woodford due to the plan's construction, end quote. Is that what we want for our country? Do we choose foreign investment over citizens' health and safety? Mr. Speaker, you think if the right assessment, paperwork, and supervision took place, this would occur? What are we saying? Economic growth is being prioritized over environmental protection? A healthy tourism industry relies on a healthy environment. The effects do not stop at the construction site. They are spread throughout the environment. Grenada's tourism industry depends heavily on clean beaches, healthy reefs, and beautiful landscapes. If we destroy the very environment that attracts visitors, we undermine one of our most important economic sectors. A strict EIA process helps identify these risks before construction begins. Environmental impact assessments protect communities and public safety. Mr. Speaker, Grenada is a mountainous island. Building on a steep slope with a proper planning can increase the risk of landslides, erosion, and flooding. An environmental impact assessment requires experts to study the land, drainage, and potential hazard before approval is granted. This help ensures that development do not put families at risk. In other words, EIAs are not only about protecting the trees and beaches, they are also about protecting people. Mr. Speaker, while development project being potential economic and healthcare benefits, they also pose significant environmental and socio-economic risks to Grenada as a whole. When linked to concerns of hillside clearing and coastal construction, these ongoing projects present several negative impacts, such as threat to vital marine ecosystem and fisheries. The Point at Petit Calavini is a private residence club and boutique resort featuring high-end villas and marine facilities. Adjacent to this is Petit Calavini Estate, a gated development offering prime oceanfront lots that includes private deep-water marinas capable of accommodating yachts. These projects affect the coastal areas of the constituency, which surrounds the Woburn-Clascoat Bay Marine Protected Area, which contains the largest intact mangrove ecosystem in Grenada. These mangroves serve as essential spawning and nursery grounds for commercially important fish such as snapper, grouper, and juvenile lobster. Coastal construction for private deep-water marinas and luxury real estate can severely damage these habitats, directly threatening the fish population and livelihood of local fishing communities. The mangrove in Woburn Bay provide crucial ecosystem services, including water quality filtration and carbon sequestration. Disrupting this area through dredging or coastal clearing degrades the overall health of marine environments. Mr. Speaker, these projects are not the problem. It's the unsafe measures that are being taken for these projects. The government of Grenada should implement stricter national integrated water resource management plans. According to the Water Knowledge Hub, and I quote, national water resource management plans can be used to help guide changes from fragmented to more integrated approaches to water resource management. In simple terms, national IW. Mr. Speaker, may you grant me 1 minute to continue, please?
Honorable member, the bell indicates that you have 1 minute before the other bell for you to stop.
National IWRM plans should be considered a roadmap for better water resources management. These actions and management instruments effectively regulate the use of conservation and protection of water resources to manage water resource in a sustainable and balanced way. Loss of agricultural land. Large-scale infrastructure projects require significant land acquisition and clearing. Project Polaris, the new general hospital, is being constructed on a massive 84-acre site in California. Mr. Speaker, may you grant me 1 minute to continue, please?
I'll grant you the 1 minute, honorable member.
Thank you. Public concerns has been raised that the hospital is being built on a valuable agricultural land. Paving over fertile acreage permanently removes it from agricultural production, which conflicts with the national goal of food security and displaces local farming activities. Mr. Speaker, do you know that agriculture, forestry, and fishing contribute to approximately 2.7% of Grenada's gross domestic product as of 2024? This represents a significant decline over the past few decades as Grenada's economy has shifted heavily towards the service sector, particularly tourism. Mr. Speaker, the government can invest in reforestation and soil stabilization, local watershed management, I thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. We, the National Youth Parliament, wish to recognize the Honorable Youth Prime Minister and Member for St. Andrew Northwest, Mr. Joshua Andel, my bad. Honorable members, you may proceed. Honorable member.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the resolution brought forward by this honorable House by the opposition leader. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, good afternoon all. Mr. Speaker, please allow me to quote throughout my speech.
Permission granted.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, while reminiscing on the beauty of Grenada, I decided to take what we may call in colloquial terms an island tour. The first stop was to Welcome Stone, overlooking the beautiful scenery of Livera Salt Pond. Mr. Speaker, upon arriving there, I was utterly devastated. It seemed as though it was a barren land. Mr. Speaker, at that moment, I questioned myself, at what cost are we pursuing development? Mr. Speaker, one of the first lessons learned in economics is not to put your eggs in one basket. Famous economist James Tobin once said, and I quote, "If you drop a basket of eggs, all of them will break." End of quote. Yet, Grenada continues to rely heavily on the tourism as its primary sources of income. We learned the dangers of this during the COVID-19 pandemic. Borders were closed, hotels were empty, and many families struggled to make ends meet. The International Monetary Fund reported that Grenada's GDP decreased by 14% and more than 14,000 jobs were lost. And despite this painful lesson, Mr. Speaker, we continue to prioritize hotel construction and tourism-related development, often at the expense of our coastline, mangroves, and forests. If we continue along this path, we are failing to learn from our lessons. Mr. Speaker, instead of investing so heavily in agriculture, why not give greater attention to industries such as agriculture? The global demand for cocoa has never been greater. According to the International Cocoa Organization Quarterly Bulletin on Cocoa Statistics 2024, cocoa demand exceeded 5 million metric tons annually. Our country is internationally recognized for producing high-quality cocoa.
Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand on a point of clarity.
Honorable Member, do you yield?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Speaker, the honorable member is confusing me. She mentioned we should not invest heavily in agriculture, but went on to also say we should invest in agriculture. Now I'm wondering, what should we invest in? What's really going on?
To clear up,
Honorable Member, you may proceed.
right, to clear the misunderstanding, I meant why not we invest in an industry such as agriculture. Right. Mr. Speaker, every acre of fertile land converted into infrastructure is an acre no longer available for agriculture. Lands that could be cultivating cocoa, spices, fruits, and vegetables are instead being paved over for development that may only generate returns for a limited period of time. Take Lhasa just for example, which was once a productive plantation, has gradually been transitioned into tourism-related development. While development is necessary, we must ask whether we are making the most financially prudent use of our limited land resources. Investing in agriculture promotes sustainable land use and long-term economic development, but it also strengthens our food security. According to Hope Research Group, a regional fieldwork partner with World Bank and UNICEF, Grenada imports approximately 70% of the food that we consume, leaving us vulnerable for rising costs in food prices as well as disruption in shipping. By investing in local agriculture, we create employment and strengthen rural communities to keep more money circulating within our economy. Mr. Speaker, there is also the financial cost of environmental degradation. As more forests are being cleared and coastlines altered, the government had to spend increasing amounts of money on erosion control, drainage systems, and flood mitigation systems. Those expenses could have been reduced through responsible planning and sustainable land management on the onset. Over the years, Grenadians have witnessed the noticeable changes in our coastline. Beaches have narrowed, mangrove ecosystems have declined in some areas, sea levels and natural barriers that once protected the inlands are under increasing pressure. Quarrying and hillside clearing also has a significant financial consequence. As vegetation is removed and slopes become less stable, the risk of flooding, landslide, and damage to public infrastructure increases. These damages require costly repairs, emergency responses, and disaster recovery, all in which places an additional burden on the taxpayers. According to Investopedia, countries like Australia, the UK, Italy, and the US are spending millions of dollars restoring eroded coastlines and protecting beaches from further loss. According to the US Climate Resilience website, the federal government spends around $150 million every year on beach nourishment and shoreline erosion control, while thousands of beach restoration projects have collectively costed them over US $18 billion. If we continue along this path, Grenada may one day face those same unavoidable costs. Mr. Speaker, stronger environmental impact assessment, reforestation, watershed protection, and greater transparency will help ensure that future generations are not forced to pay the financial burden of environmental neglect. And for that, Mr. Speaker, I would like to leave this one quote. May I have 30 seconds, please?
30 seconds granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Development should never force us to choose between prosperity and preservation. And for these reasons, I am proud to support this resolution. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Youth Prime Minister and Youth Member for St. George's Northeast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable members of this Youth Parliament, strangers in the gallery. Mr. Speaker, while walking in my constituency a few months back, I engaged in a lengthy conversation with one of the young men there because he was part of the Sustainable Agriculture Project. Now, I'm getting a bit older, so I can't remember exactly everything that he said, but there is one statement that stuck out to me. He said, Mr. Speaker, permission to quote?
Permission granted.
And I quote, "Solar pumps saved my crops," end of quote. Mr. Speaker, that is development with resilience. Mr. Speaker, the resolution is entitled "The Balance Between Development and Environmental Protection." But what is development? According to the Nation Geographic Education, Mr. Speaker, permission to quote throughout my speech.
Permission granted.
And I quote, "Development is the process of growth or changing from one condition to another," end of quote. So I ask the honorable members, is there only one way for a country to be developed? Today, the opposition has brought toward this honorable House a resolution, and let me begin by commending the honorable members for a matter of undeniable national importance. Their concerns for our forests, coastlines, reefs, and watersheds is sincere, and this government shares that concern wholeheartedly. However, Mr. Speaker, while we agree with the principles of this resolution, we cannot agree with the premise upon which it is built. The resolution suggests that the government must now begin implementing environmental protection as though these commitments have somehow been overlooked until today. Respectfully, Mr. Speaker, that implication is simply not supported by facts. This government has never viewed development and environmental protection as opposing forces. We have consistently pursued a model of sustainable development, one that seeks to grow our economy while preserving the natural resources that define us as the pure Grenada. Now, Mr. Speaker, allow me to educate the opposition on some of the facts. The opposition would have the House believe that the government has not been enforcing environmental impact assessment as a mandatory approval for coastal, hillside, and large-scale development projects. But, Mr. Speaker, this very government has already embedded environmental protection impact assessment, a mandatory part of approving the major development. This government introduced a formal environmental impact assessment administrative manual, and according to the Government of Grenada web portal, and I quote, "This manual establishes a structured EIA process, introduces screening, scoping, impact assessment, and monitoring stages," end of quote. The opposition narrative suggests that environmental stewardship begins with this resolution. Respectfully, it does not. Long before this debate, the government has placed environmental sustainability at the very center of national development. Mr. Speaker, Grenada's National Sustainable Development Plan 2020 to 2035 clearly commits our nation to environmental sustainability and security as one of its national goals. The resolution itself acknowledges this commitment. Likewise, under Grenada's planning framework, major developments that may significantly affect the environment are already required to undergo an EIA process before approval. These assessments are not optional formalities. They are safeguards designed to ensure that development proceeds responsibly and environmental risks are identified and addressed. Mr. Speaker, the opposition paints the picture that the government has been struggling to invest in reforestation and watershed protection program, advancing national progress towards Sustainable Development Goal 15 in areas affected by quarrying and land clearing. But I suppose they are not aware of the National Adaptation Plan 2025 to 2030, which commits to developing and implementing a national reforestation program to improve watershed, beginning with Kariku, rehabilitating degraded watershed areas, strengthening watershed management to improve water securing, and allocating approximately $1 million for the Water Resource Investment Program, including reforestation initiative, according to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, according to the United Nations SDG 15, entitled Life on Land, and I quote, "It's about conserving life on land. It is to protect and restore terrestrial ecosystem, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification and halt and reverse land degradation, and stop biodiversity loss." I am here wondering, where has the honorable members been getting the information? Mr. Speaker, I am yet to mention the revised Forest Policy 2018 with information published by the Climate Resilience Portal on the 25th of February 2025, which clearly focuses on increasing and maintaining forest cover, restoring degraded forests, conserving biodiversity, and improving resilience to climate change and natural disasters. This directly advances to SDG 15, which promotes sustainable management and forest restoration of degraded land. Mr. Speaker, the opposition would have this House believe that the government has done nothing to make sure that there is transparency and public consultation in the approval process for development projects that significantly alter the natural landscape. But, Mr. Speaker, what about the public consultation that is built into the EIA process? Through the Government of Grenada Environmental Impact Assessment Administrative Manual 2022, and I quote, "The manual provides consultation with affected communities and stakeholders, has opportunities for public to review and comment on proposed developments, engagement with government agencies, NGOs, and technical experts." End of quote. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, allow me to make one point abundantly clear. The operative clauses of this resolution ask government to implement a policy that has already been implemented. That is not a criticism of the opposition. It is simply a statement of fact. The question before the House is therefore not whether the government has acted. The question is whether the government should continue strengthening those systems already in place. Mr. Speaker, the answer to that question is already and will always remain yes. But let us not confuse strengthening existing policies with suggesting that no framework exists. There is an important distinction. Mr. Speaker, development is often misunderstood. Some believe that government measures development solely by the number of hotels, roads constructed, or investment projects announced. That has never been the government's policy. We do not believe in development at all costs. We believe in development with responsibility. development that grows our economy and without sacrificing the very natural beauty upon which the economy depends. On that topic of development, Mr. Speaker, earlier in my speech, I gave a definition of development. I'm going to repeat. And I quote, development is the process of growth or changing from one condition to another, end of quote. Now, I may not be the smartest in the room, but in no way does this definition limit development to the nice roads and buildings that we've built. Mr. Speaker, upon all that I've mentioned the government did to protect our natural resources through the World Bank, evidence shows that Grenada is not standing still. We are developing. Our economy expanded 4% in 2024, reaching a GDP of approximately US $1.37 billion. Tourism has rebounded strongly, bringing increased economic activity. Today's Grenadians live longer, with life expectancy reaching approximately 75 years, and we have now reduced debt pressures. We are just fortunate to achieve both development without the cost of our land. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, when you think of development, especially in my constituency, I want you to think about the Eastern Road Project, and reported by Now Grenada in January 2026, and I quote, with modern drainage. Mr. Speaker, permit me 2 minutes to wrap up my speech.
Honorable member, I will grant you 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With modern drainage, slope stabilization, and safer designs that reduce erosion and flooding, end of quote. Think of the Seven Sisters Waterfall Project, transfer project, improving water security for approximately 11,400 people, according to the Climate Resilience Portal. Mr. Speaker, the list can go on and on and on, but I say, our natural resources has never been the cost of our development. In fact, Grenada is increasingly being designed to balance infrastructure growth and development with environmental protection. Therefore, while we commend the spirit of this resolution, we reject any implication that the environmental stewardship has been absent from this government's agenda. Grenada deserves a debate rooted not only in aspiration, but in evidence, not
Honorable
merely
member.
in criticism, but in constructive governance, not in promises,
Mr. Speaker.
but in proven
Honorable member.
action. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of clarity, right? The honorable member, the Prime Minister, right? I was listening to the speech very thoroughly, right? She indicated that the government has already started environmental impact assessments, right? She listed a few, screening, water sources, etc. At the latter part of the speech, she stated them. Even though the speech was well put together, I don't think she gave a thorough explanation, except for two, which is screening, as to the implementations that the government have done, right, in that agenda, right? She stated it, but more so, I believe that the speech went against it and not really an explanation as to what the government did in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. Sadly, the youth prime minister cannot make a response because she's already finished with her speech, and every member, I should say, is only allotted once to speak. So hopefully, maybe this may be answered in one of the speeches as time progresses. Honorable members, you may proceed. Honorable Youth, Member for St. Patrick and Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, may I have your permission to go throughout my speech?
Permission granted. Additionally, members, please ensure that you turn your mics off when not speaking.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, honorable members of this youth parliament, I rise in my capacity today as Minister of Foreign Affairs and leader of government business to dismiss the premises in which the resolution has been made. Mr. Speaker, there is one point in which every member of this House can agree. Grenada's environment is precious. Our rivers, our forests, our beaches, coastlines, and marine ecosystems are not just part of our identity, but they are the lifeblood of our economy and will serve as a benefit for future generations, our children and our children's children. Mr. Speaker, responsible governments do not choose between economic growth and environmental protection. They prioritize both. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I cannot support the implication that this government has failed to place environmental protection at the center of national development. As Minister responsible for Foreign Affairs and Trade, I can confidently state Grenada's environmental policies are not only safeguarding our nation, but also serve as a model of sustainable development for the wider Caribbean. If adopted across the region, these policies have potential to strengthen climate resilience, protect natural resources, and promote sustainable economic growth for all Caribbean countries. Mr. Speaker, the international community is no longer investing solely in countries with economic potential. It is investing in countries that demonstrate good governance, environmental responsibility, and climate resilience. According to the Honorable Joseph Andel, Minister for Foreign Affairs, in an interview with Caribbean National Weekly News, and I quote, "We're a tiny country, and it is in our interest to diversify our partnerships to reach out to other parts of the world," end quote. Mr. Speaker, those words reflect the government's foreign policy. Grenada understands that we cannot confront climate change, disaster resilience, food security, and sustainable development in isolation. Regional and international cooperation are essential. This government continues to strengthen partnerships with several organizations inter alia: the United Nations, the World Bank, the Caribbean Development Bank, the Green Climate Fund, and the European Union, securing financial and technical assistance to implement climate resilient projects, improve infrastructure, and promote sustainable development across our nation. Through our partnership with the European Union, for example, this government has secured funding to advance climate adaptation, renewable energy, and environmental sustainability initiatives, ensuring that these projects move beyond policy and become reality for the people of Grenada. Mr. Speaker, I am glad to announce that under the leadership of this government, Grenada has also expanded its diplomatic footprint beyond its traditional partners. This government has strengthened diplomatic relations with Africa by establishing new ties with countries including Cape Verde and Lesotho in 2024, and signed visa waiver agreements with Ghana, Benin, and the Kingdom of Morocco to facilitate trade and investment. These partnerships reflect a foreign policy that is opening new markets and reconnecting Grenada with the African continent. Mr. Speaker, these are not mere symbolic gestures. They are strategic decisions that create opportunities for exports, encourage investments, and create an avenue for a more sustainable Grenada. Mr. Speaker, the recent Grenada Diaspora Homecoming Initiative is a clear example of how this government has integrated economic development with environmental sustainability. The event welcomed Grenadians from around the world, increasing business for hotels, restaurants, transportation providers, local vendors, and tour operators, while the Diaspora Investment Forum created opportunities for returning nationals to invest in Grenada's future. Mr. Speaker, the government also ensured that the environmental stewardship formed part of the homecoming experience through National Spice Replantation Day. Returning nationals and local volunteers came together across Grenada and Carriacou to plant spice trees, helping to restore Grenada's agricultural heritage, strengthen our national environment, and preserve our identity as the Spice Isle for future generations. What a commendable initiative, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this initiative demonstrates that because this government has maintained strong diplomatic relations with countries around the world, we are able to keep our diaspora engaged as active partners in nation building, contributing not only to our economy, but also to the protection of our environment. Mr. Speaker, the Government of Grenada's Environmental Impact Assessment Administrative Manual 2022 already requires environmental impact assessment before major developments receive approval. Mr. Speaker, this means that projects such as hotels... Mr. Speaker, may I have one minute to finish my speech?
1 minute granted.
Thank you. Such as hotels, marinas, quarries, coastal developments, and large housing projects cannot simply break ground without first examining the environmental and social impacts. It also requires public consultation, allowing citizens, environmental experts, and government agencies to raise concerns before the construction begins. Additionally, Grenada's National Sustainable Developmental Plan 2020 to 2035 is far more than a policy document. It is the country's blueprint for long-term national development. It recognizes that economic growth, social progress, and environmental protection are not competing priorities, but interconnected pillars of a prosperous nation. Mr. Speaker, these are not promises made in response to this resolution. They are commitments this government has already honored and continues to honor. The evidence is equally compelling. Mr. Speaker, that is not development at the expense of our environment. That is development. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We, the National Youth Parliamentarians for St. David, wish to recognize Mr. Tarek Miller, Youth MP for St. David, who is a stranger in the gallery. Honorable members, are there any more contributions to this resolution? Honorable Youth Member for St. John and Minister with responsibility for education, youth, and sports.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members of this youth parliament, strangers in the gallery, good afternoon. Mr. Speaker, permission to quote throughout my speech?
Permission granted.
I thank you. Mr. Speaker, as the Minister of Education, Youth and Sports, I am proud to say that this government has already been successfully implementing many of these initiatives, and this resolution strengthens our commitment even further. Mr. Speaker, this government has long recognized that development must be responsible. Through the Physical Planning and Development Control Act, environmental impact assessments are already required for developments that could significantly affect the environment. This demonstrates that Grenada is not waiting until environmental damage occurs. We are taking action now. As the Minister of Education, I see the benefits every day. When developments are properly assessed, schools, sporting facilities, and surrounding communities are less vulnerable to flooding, landslides, and environmental hazards. Safe communities create better learning environments where students can focus their education rather than recovering from natural disasters. Our education system has also placed an increasing emphasis on environmental awareness through subjects such as social studies, geography, agricultural science, integrated science, and environmental science. Students learn about conservation, biodiversity, climate change, and disaster risk reduction. Schools across Grenada regularly participate in beach cleanups, tree planting activities, recycling campaigns, and environmental awareness programs. These initiatives help develop environmentally responsible citizens who understand that protecting our national resources is everyone's responsibility. And I quote, as Geo Hamlin Bertland stated, sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without composing the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. End of quote. Mr. Speaker, this government has already demonstrated its commitment to restoring and protecting our natural environment through initiatives such as the Range to Reef program, watersheds restoration programs, and climate resilience programs. Thousands of trees have been planted, degraded lands restored, and watersheds protected. These investments directly benefit education and youth development. Healthy rainforests reduce flooding, protect communities, and improve water quality, and preserve the beautiful natural environment that many of our schools use for field trip and outdoor learning. As the Minister of Youth, I strongly support involving young people in environmental stewardship. Students and youth organizations have participated in national tree planting days, coastal cleanups, environmental clubs, school gardening programs, and climate awareness programs. These activities help build leadership, teamwork, and national pride. Mr. Speaker, education teaches us that every voice matters. Democracy is strengthened when citizens are informed, consulted, and given opportunities to participate in decisions that affect their communities. The government has already embraced public consultation through the environmental impact assessment process, where residents, environmental experts, community organizations, and stakeholders are invited to review major development proposals and provide valuable feedback. As Minister of Education, I believe civic participation begins in our classroom. Students across Grenada learn about democracy, citizenship, consultation rights, and public participation through social studies and civic education. We are preparing young Grenadians to become active citizens who understand the importance of transparency, accountability, and good governance. Through organizations such as the Youth Parliaments, school councils, youth groups, and community organizations, young people are learning how to participate in national decision making. This resolution continues to strengthen the culture of our openness and accountability. When citizens are consulted, projects are better designed, environmental risks are identified earlier, and public trust in government grows stronger. This is exactly the kind of government that this administration has consistently promoted. And I quote, as Nelson Mandela stated, a critical, independent, and investigative press is the lifeblood of any democracy. End of quote. Mr. Speaker, these three resolutions are not including unfamiliar ideas. They are built upon policies, programs that this government has already implemented successfully. We have strengthened environmental planning through environmental impact assessments. Mr. Speaker, can I ask you for 1 minute, please?
Honorable member, I would give you 1 minute to finish. Yes.
I thank you. We have invested in our rainforest and watershed protection. We have encouraged public participation and transparency in national development. At the same time, we have invested in our schools, expanded access to education through free tuition at TAMCC and ULO, strengthening technical training, award programs, scholarships, and improved school infrastructure and empowering thousands of Grenadians to become responsible leaders. Mr. Speaker, this government has laid a strong foundation. This resolution therefore strengthens the work that the government has already been carrying out for years. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honorable members. Members of the gallery, please refrain from clapping. You ought not to show any form of agreement or disagreement with the resolution. Honorable Youth Member for St. George's South.
Mr. Speaker, permission to go through my speech.
Permission granted.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members of this House and fellow young Grenadians, I rise today not as an enemy of development, but as a friend of young Grenadians who cannot afford to inherit a ruined island. The government would have us believe that this House faces a simple choice: a job today or a future tomorrow. Growth now or grief later. This is a false choice and I do not stand for it. The real choice is between short-term profit and long-term survival. The motion before us chooses wisely. Mr. Speaker, the government claims that environmental impact assessments are merely delays and permits. These are not theoretical concerns. According to the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court in February 2026, Justice Glasgow ruled that the Planning and Development Authority approved 3 major developments at Levara, Mount Hartman, and La Sagesse, after relying on environmental impact assessments that were so inadequate, and I quote, "No reasonable authority could have relied upon them," end of quote. The judgment identified serious deficiencies in the environmental assessment and approval process for these projects. This is not a criticism of the government. This is a statement of facts. This is not sustainable development. This is poor government. This is not responsible planning. This is environmental stewardship taking second place to rapid development. And when environmental protection becomes secondary, every Grenadian pays the price. Mr. Speaker, I am not opposed to development, and the opposition is not opposed to investment. We are opposed to a model of development that treats sustainability as an afterthought. The Minister of Tourism knows better than anyone. Grenada's tourism product is not concrete. It is Grenada's beach. It is our national park at Grenada. It is our reefs of the southern coast. It is Levara. It is our mangroves, waterfalls, and marine biodiversity. Visitors do not come to Grenada because we have the tallest building in the Caribbean. They visit us because we have protected what many countries have already lost. So I ask again, what happens when our natural assets disappear? What happens when coastal erosions worsen? When mangroves that protect our coastline are degraded? The answer is simple. Tourism suffers, our community suffers, and our economy suffers. Mr. Speaker, economic growth and environmental protection are partners. One cannot survive without the other. This resolution recognizes the truth. It calls for stronger environmental impact assessment, not to stop development, but to ensure that development is responsible. It calls for investment in reforestation and watershed protection, not because trees are more important than people, but because healthy watershed reduces flooding, protects water supplies, and strengthens climate resilience. It calls for greater transparency and public consultation because the communities affected by these developments deserve a voice in decisions that shape their future. Mr. Speaker, tourism policies cannot be separate from environmental policies. They are one and the same. If our beaches disappear, tourism suffers. If our reefs decline, tourism suffers. If our protected areas are compromised, tourism suffers. Protecting our environment is not anti-development. It is pro-Grenada, it is pro-business, and it is pro-tourism. Mr. Speaker, The tourism minister is going to speak in length about hotels and visitors' arrivals and investment. Yet none of these can exist without beaches, reefs, forests, and landscape that make Grenada, and I quote, pure Grenada, the spice isle of the Caribbean. End of quote. Tourism is not built on concrete alone. It is built on our natural heritage. The government's own policy acknowledges this. Grenada was the first Caribbean nation to approve the National Adaptation Plan. They recognize that our future depends on resilience and environmental stewardship. Mr. Speaker, the opposition is not asking this House to choose between development and conservation. We are asking this House to choose between short-term gains and long-term prosperity. Because history will not judge us by the number of hotels we approve. History will judge us whether we had the courage to protect the country we inherited. Development is not sustainability. Development without sustainability is not progress. It is simply borrowing prosperity from a future generation and expecting them to pay that debt. Mr. Speaker, Grenada deserves better. We deserve development that creates jobs while protecting our coastline. We deserve investment that strengthens, not weakens our resilience. And we deserve a government that understands the true cost of development is not measured not only in dollars, but in a natural heritage we leave behind. For those reasons, Mr. Speaker, I proudly support this resolution. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Youth Member for St. Andrew Northeast and Minister with responsibility for agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members of this youth parliament, strangers in the gallery, good afternoon. Permission to go through my speech?
Permission granted.
Development is often measured by the roads we pave, the buildings we construct, and the achievements we attract. Those achievements are important, and every Grenadian wants to see our country continue to grow. However, as Minister for Agriculture, I believe there is another question we must ask ourselves. What is the true cost of development in the process we weaken the very sector that feeds our nation? Agriculture has shaped Grenada's history long before many of our modern industries existed. It gave us the title of Island of Spice, built rural communities, and continues to provide employment and income for thousands of Grenadians. Our nutmeg, cocoa, cinnamon, and other spices have earned international recognition, and our farmers continue to supply fresh produce to households, supermarkets, hotels, and restaurants across the country. Yet, Mr. Speaker, despite our rich agricultural heritage and fertile lands, Grenada continues to rely heavily on imported food. Recent economic supports by the International Monetary Fund show that food imports remain a significant part of our import bill. That should concern every one of us, because the more we depend on imported food, the more valuable we become to the global prices, shipping delays, and supply chain disruptions. This is why agriculture must remain a national priority. One of the greatest challenges facing our farmers today is the gradual loss of productive agricultural land. Development is necessary, but every decision we make about land carries consequences. Our fertile farmland is replaced by concrete. It is extremely difficult and often impossible to restore its productive use. If we continue reducing the amount of land available for farmers without proper planning, we risk weakening our ability to feed ourselves in the future. Mr. Speaker, our farmers are already facing challenges beyond their control. Climate change continues to affect every stage of agricultural production. Longer dry season, unpredictable rainfall, and more intense storms are making farming increasingly difficult.
According to the World Bank, I quote, small islands developing states such as Grenada are among the countries most vulnerable to climate-related disasters, end of quote. Our farmers do not experience climate change through reports and statistics. They experience it every time drought changes, a crop or heavy rainfall washes away valuable topsoil. I recently spoke with a farmer who explained that after one night of heavy rain, months of hard work disappeared as soil and young crops were swept downhill. His experience is not unique. Across our countries, farmers are struggling with soil erosion, rising production costs, and unpredictable weather, all while trying to provide food for our nation. These challenges are even made or even worse by rising the cost of fertilizer, fuel, and farming equipment. Many farmers also continue to suffer from predial larceny, where crops and livestock are stolen after months of investigation and hard work. Incidents like these discourage farmers from expanding production and make it even harder to attract young people into agriculture. But, Mr. Speaker, these problems are not without solutions. The government of Grenada has already partnered with the Food and Agriculture Organization to strengthen agricultural value chains, improve the market access for local products, support our fisheries sector, and analyze the findings of the 2023 agricultural census. These are positive steps, but we must continue building on this progress if we want agriculture to remain competitive and sustainable. First, we must strengthen land use planning so that productive agricultural land is protected whenever major development products are considered. Development should complement agriculture, not replace it. Second, we must continue investigating in climate-smart agriculture, expanding irrigation system, supporting greenhouse farming, improving drainage, and introducing modern farming technologies will help our farmers increase production despite changing weather conditions. Third, we must inspire more young people to pursue careers in agriculture. Farming today is no longer limited to cutlass and hoes. It's an industry driven by innovation, technology, entrepreneurship, and business. Through training programs, easy access to financing, and support for agriculture businesses, we can empower the next generation of farmers to see agriculture as a profession with real opportunity. Finally, we must provide stronger support for those who are willing to feeding this nation, better farm roads, improved storage facilities, easier access to markets, and stronger measures to combat predial larceny will allow farmers to increase production and to earn their fair return for their investment. Mr. Speaker, food security is national security. The COVID-19 pandemic reminded the entire world that countries cannot always depend on importing goods during the times of crisis. If we want Grenada to become more resilient, then investing in local agriculture is not an option. Mr. Speaker, grant me 1 minute to finish my speech.
Honorable member, I would grant you 1 minute.
Thank you. Then investing in local agriculture is not an option, it is a necessity. Development should improve the lives of our people without destroying the resources that sustain them. We can build new communities while protecting fertile farmland. We can expand our ecosystem while preserving our forests and watersheds. We can attract investments while ensuring that our farmers continue to produce food for our nation depends on. The future of agriculture will not be decided by speeches alone. It will be decided by the choices we make today if we protect our agricultural lands, invest in our farmers, and embrace innovation. We will leave behind a stronger, more resilient Grenada, one that can feed itself, compete globally, and provide opportunities for generations to come. For those reasons, Mr. Speaker, I proudly support this resolution and respectfully urge our honorable member of this House to do the same. I thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. Are there any other contributions to this resolution? Honorable Youth Member for St. George's Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Permission to quote throughout my speech.
Permission granted.
Thank you to the Minister of Agriculture for supporting the opposition. You have done an excellent job in presenting the challenges that development pose. Mr. Speaker, honorable members of this honorable House, I rise today on behalf of the opposition to contribute to this debate on the resolution entitled The Balance Between Development and Environmental Protection. Mr. Speaker, there is no disagreement in this honorable House that Grenada Mr. Speaker, there is no disagreement in this honorable House that Grenada requires development. Roads must be improved, homes must be built, tourism facilities must attract investment, and modern infrastructure remains essential to our nation's progress. Development creates employment, stimulates economic activity, and improves the quality of life for our people. However, development must never become synonymous with environmental degradation or the irreversible loss of our agricultural heritage. The true measure of development is not simply the number of buildings we erect, but whether we preserve the natural resources that sustain our economy, protect our communities, and secure the future for generations yet unborn. Mr. Speaker, this debate is particularly significant for the parish of St. George, the commercial heart of Grenada. St. George accommodates the country's largest concentration of residential, commercial, tourism, and infrastructural development. It is home to the capital city, the main seaport, and the Boris Bishop International Airport. With increasing urban expansion and coastal development, the pressure on limited land resources, hillsides, wetlands, and watersheds continues to grow. At the same time, Grenada is a small island state with a total land area of only 344 square kilometers. Every acre of fertile land lost to poorly planned development is land that can never be replaced. That reality makes sustainable land use planning not merely desirable, but absolutely essential. Mr. Speaker, agriculture is simply another, Mr. Speaker, agriculture is not simply another economic sector. It remains the backbone of many rural communities, an important source of employment, a contributor to food security, and a significant earner of foreign exchange. The Food and Agriculture Organization has warned that approximately 95% of the world's food is produced directly or indirectly from healthy soil. Every hillside stripped without proper safeguards, every watershed degraded, and every forest unnecessarily cleared weakens that foundation. Grenada agricultural sector supports thousands of livelihoods through farming, fishing, agro processing, transportation, and exports. Our internationally recognized nutmeg, cocoa, maize, and cinnamon industries depend upon fertile soils, healthy forests, reliable water supplies, and stable rainfall patterns. Mr. Speaker, when development proceeds without proper planning, agriculture bears a hidden cost. Removing vegetation from steep slopes accelerates soil erosion. Sediments enter our rivers and coastal waters. damaging coral reefs that protect our shorelines and support fisheries. Degraded watersheds retain less water during dry periods while increasing flooding after heavy rainfall. Farmers are then left with declining soil fertility, higher production costs, and reduced crop yields. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, small island developing states import, on average, more than 60% of the food they consume. Grenada is no exception. Our food import bill continues to rise each year, making us increasingly vulnerable to international supply distributions and raising global food prices. Mr. Speaker, every acre of productive farmland prominently covered by concrete represents greater dependence on imported food and less resilience in times of crisis. As former United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon wisely observed, there can be no plan B because there is no planet B. Those words carry special significance for Grenada. Our land is finite. Once productive agricultural land has lost to unchecked development, it can not simply be recreated. Mr. Speaker, the resolution rightly calls for stronger environmental impact assessments. Mr. Speaker, can you grant me a minute and a half, please?
I knew that you were thrown off a little while ago, so I will grant you the minute and a half.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the resolution rightly calls for stronger environmental impact assessments, watersheds protection, reforestation, and greater transparency. These are commendable objectives, and the opposition supports these principles wholeheartedly. However, we must ask an important question. Why are these measures only now being reviewed, while environmental concerns surrounding major developments have repeatedly been raised by communities, farmers, environmental organizations, and technical experts? Environmental impact assessments must never become procedural exercises completed simply to satisfy legal requirements. They must be scientifically rigorous, independently reviewed, publicly accessible, and generally capable of determining whether a project should proceed, not merely documenting environmental damage after decisions have effectively been made. Mr. Speaker, protecting our environment requires more than planting trees after forests have already disappeared. It requires safeguarding watersheds before becoming degraded, and it requires meaningful consultation with farmers whenever major developments affect irrigation systems, drainage. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We, the National Youth Parliament of St. David, wish to recognize Senator the Honorable Civil Francis, Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Youth and Sports, who is a stranger in the gallery. Honorable members, you may proceed. Honorable Youth Member for Carriacou and the Petite Martinique, and Minister with responsibility for finance.
Mr. Speaker, permission to quote throughout my speech.
Permission granted.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, honorable members of this Parliament, members of the gallery, good evening. There is a saying that the true measure of a nation's progress is not how fast it grows, but how wisely it grows. Mr. Speaker, This resolution is entitled The Cost of Development. But what is development? Some see cranes against our skyline, hillsides cleared for hotels.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of clarity, I think the honorable member stated the resolution incorrectly. Right? It's not the cost of development, but the balance between. Right? Yeah. Thank you.
Honorable members, remember you need to wait until I acknowledge fully, and everything. However, honorable member, you may proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, this resolution is entitled The Cost of Development. But what is development? Some see cranes against our skyline, hillsides cleared for hotels, and reefs silenced by silt. But Mr. Speaker, I see something differently. I see a mother in Kariku turning on her tap and finding clean running water for the first time in years. I see 1,750 families sitting down to dinner tonight because a hotel resort gave them a job, a livelihood, and a future. I see a young Grenadian walking into a 250-bed smart hospital at Hopevale and receiving world-class healthcare without leaving our shores. Now, Mr. Speaker, this is development. And this government has never believed that government and environmental protection must be enemies. We believe we can have both. Now, the opposition call for stronger environmental impact assessments, they call for reforestation, they call for transparency. But I must ask, where have they been? Because this government is already delivering every one of those things and more. The opposition would have this nation believe that the government has sacrificed the environment in pursuit of economic growth. But Mr. Speaker, nothing could be further from the truth. Take, for instance, the Balthazar Bridge reconstruction project, a US $15 million World Bank initiative, according to the Ministry of Infrastructure, underwent hydrological modeling for flood events, 2 rounds of public consultation, and a full environmental and social management plan. The Grenada Solar Project. It examined 5 different sites under 10 different scenarios to ensure critical mangrove vegetation was preserved. Mr. Speaker, now these are not actions of a government ignoring the environment. They are actions of a government balancing development with responsibility. Mr. Speaker, let me ask a question to the opposition, one that they never answer. How do you enforce IEAs if you cannot pay environmental officers? How do you protect reefs if your economy has collapsed? The Citizen by Investment Program, which the opposition has, pillared, which they have.
Honorable member, it's okay, take your time.
The Citizen by Investment Program, which the opposition has pillared and which they have called for the
All right, thank you, honorable member. as we proceed with the resolution, are there any other contributions for it? Honorable Youth Member for the Town of St. George with responsibility for tourism.
Good day, Mr. Speaker, honorable members of our government and opposition. Mr. Speaker, permission to quote throughout my speech.
Permission granted.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today as Minister of Tourism to support our government's development plans. We do not fear development. We believe in development that benefits Grenada, our people, and strengthens the industry that drives our economy. Let us reject this baseless argument brought by the opposition. This is not about choosing between development and the environment. It is about developing wisely so that the tourism industry can grow while also protecting our natural resources. Mr. Speaker, our tourism industry needs development. Our tourism industry is vital to our Grenadian economy. Visitors need airports to land, ports to dock, roads to travel, hotels to stay in, and marinas to visit. That supporting infrastructure is what development provides. According to the National Sustainable Development Plan 2020-2035, tourism contributes approximately 23.3% of Grenada's GDP and over 21% of national employment. And Mr. Speaker, we are delivering on that vision. Under this government, we have seen responsible development in action through the redevelopment of Fort George, improvements at Grenada and Lavera, the expansion of the Maurice Bishop International Airports, and upgrades to Grenada ports. These projects have created jobs, attracted foreign direct investment, and put money into the pockets of Grenadians. Mr. Speaker, these improvements have also increased visitors' arrivals. Mr. Speaker, development is not limited to airports and ports. Our government has also invested in upgrading and rehabilitating roads across the island. Better roads improve access to tourism sites such as Grenada, Lavera, Fort George, and our rural communities, making travel safer and more effective for both visitors and citizens. Improved road infrastructure also support local farmers, vendors, taxi operators, and small businesses that depend on tourism, ensuring that the benefits of development reach every parish, not just the hoteling sector. As the opposition stated, we are focusing on tourism, but I tell you this, we are focusing on natural resources and everything that sustains Grenada. That is what responsible development looks like. Mr. Speaker, we are fully aware that we must also protect the very asset that gives Grenada that give this investment their value. Our rainforests, beaches, coral reefs, and biodiversity are why visitors choose Pure Grenada. Development, therefore, must be careful, responsible, and well-planned. Mr. Speaker, the good news is that Grenada has already the policy foundation to achieve this balance between growth and protection. Firstly, I remind you that the National Sustainable Development Plan 2020-2035 sets the direction. On the national goal number 3, Grenada is committed to environmental sustainability and security, ensuring that major project approvals are guided by long-term national priorities. Second, the Physical Planning and Development Control Act gives us the tools to manage development responsibly. It requires environmental impact assessment for major projects and allows us to enforce coastal setbacks, manage hillside clearing, and control quarrying to reduce erosion and siltation. Third, the Climate Change Adaptation Policy and Integrated Coastal Zone Management Policy requires climate-resilient design for tourism infrastructure and protect mangroves, watershed, along with reef buffers. This matters because the United Nations Environment Programme confirms that mangroves can reduce energy by up to 66%, proving that natural infrastructure can strengthen and protect our built infrastructure. Fourthly, our tourism master plan connects tourism product development with environmental management by promoting eco-tours, farm-to-table dining, reef restoration, and heritage experience. It moves Grenada towards higher value tourism and helps us earn more from each visitor while protecting assets that bring them here. Mr. Speaker, the evidence strengthens this argument. These figures show that environmental protection is not separate from development. It is essential to protecting the very investment on which our economy depends. We cannot ignore the risks, and we cannot stop building. We must build better, smarter, and build with resilience at the center. That is why, as Minister of Tourism, our government is committed to strengthening what we already do. We will give investors incentives not only for maintaining project timelines, but also protecting our coastlines and watershed. We propose to fast-track projects that meet eco standards, use local labor, and source local produce that support growth and food security. Mr. Speaker, we are considering using a portion of hotel and departure taxes for reef restoration, drainage upgrades, and reforestation in tourism corridors. In this way, investors, citizens, and Parliament can measure our progress not only by GDP and visitors' arrival. Mr. Speaker, a minute, please.
1 minute granted.
Thank you. But by also the health of our beaches and the quality of water and the condition of our reefs. Mr. Speaker, while Grandins Beach faces coastal pressure and hillsides can become unstable during heavy rainfall, we know the solution. The answer is to pay every development dollar with a resilient dollar. Our government is committed to well-planned and well-implemented development strategies that create jobs today and sustain jobs in tourism for decades to come. We do not inherit this country from our ancestors alone. We are also borrowing it from our children. Mr. Speaker, I support the government's development plans and affirm that tourism and development must go hand in hand. With our robust policies and strong enforcement strategies, Grenada can continue to grow while protecting the natural beauty that makes our island unique. Today, we will build a Grenada that is both prosperous and sustainable. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member. Are there any other contributions to this resolution? Honorable Youth Member for St. David and Minister with responsibility for social development.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members of this youth parliament, strangers in the gallery, pleasant evening. Mr. Speaker, permission to quote throughout my speech?
Permission granted.
Thank you. A powerful quote by expert Kenneth Blanchard: "There is a difference between interest and commitment. When you are interested in something, you do it when it is convenient. When you are committed to something, you accept no excuses, only results." End of quote. Mr. Speaker, I stand here today together with my team to discuss a matter that is important to us not only as a people, but as a country. Furthermore, I would like to help the opposition members to understand the point I will bring forward here today. My task as Minister of Social Development is to contribute and lay out evidence and facts for the concern raised regarding the cost of development. I respectfully stand in agreement, but in opposition to the grounds of which this resolution is brought out, due to the opposition team failing to recognize the significance different obstacles that we, the government, have already overcome to ensure the development and the environmental protection go hand in hand. Firstly, I would point out how the government have strengthened and strictly enforced existing environmental, impact assessment as a mandatory requirement for approval for all coastal, hillside, and large-scale development projects. Secondly, I would take the opportunity to state how the government invested in reforestation and watershed protection programs that have advanced national progress towards sustainable development. Mr. Speaker, allow me a minute to educate the opposition members as I define a word that I know will help them understand the point with clarity and each secure them an opportunity to gain some knowledge. Opposition members, take notes. According to Cambridge Dictionary, the word caution means to exercise care to minimize risk or avoid harm. In deeper context, a statement, notice, or sign that alerts someone to be careful. Mr. Speaker, allow me to give a visual example. Yellow, a universal safety color, used to designate caution, warning, or potential hazard. Just like this sign, it is typically featured with black text and a yellow background. As Minister for Social Development, my foremost responsibility is the well-being of our people. Social development is about creating communities that are safer, healthy, resilient, and sustainable. It is about ensuring that every Grenadian has access to opportunities for a better quality of life while preserving the natural resources upon which our communities depend on. Mr. Speaker, development is not our enemy. Development has and continues to create employment, strengthen our economy, improve infrastructure, expand access to housing, and provides opportunities for families to improve their standard of living. At the same time, our government has never ignored its responsibility to protect its environment. Over the past 3 years, the government of Grenada has continued to require EIA, environmental impact assessment, for several major infrastructure and climate resilience projects under the Physical Planning and Development Control Act. Let's take a look at Seven Sister Water Transfer Project 2024 to 2025, a much-needed assessment. Mr. Speaker, not only am I happy to clarify my evidence, but it shows that the opposition members are learning here today and that they are listening. Now that I have your attention, documents sourced from the National Water and Sewage Authority 2025 that the government through NAWASA completed an ESIA, Environmental and Social Impact Assessment, before advancing the project. The project involved construction, a water intake pump, station, and transformation pipeline through the environmental sensitive area near the Grenada estate. Why was this done, some may ask? The assessment examined impacts of forest, wildlife, water quality, and nearby communities measured before construction. In November 2024, the project team engaged to discuss. After observation and proving clarification for planning, approval, the project was presented to the Planning and Development Authority, in which documentation was formally submitted. The PDA thus granted permission in December 2024, where a necessary action was taken to move forward with a successful project. Can we Mr. Speaker, can you grant me 1 minute to wrap up?
Honorable Member, I would grant you 2 minutes.
Can we honestly say that the government of Grenada has ignored environmental protection while pursuing development? The answer is no. Honorable Speaker, economic development and environmental protection are not competing properties with Grenada's national agenda. They are complementary objectives that had guided our policies for many years. Therefore, While I appreciate the intention behind this resolution, I cannot support a motion that overlooks the meaningful work already undertaken by our nation, to achieve sustainable development. Let us instead acknowledge our progress, continue strengthening the system already in place, and work collectively to build an even more resilient, purposeful, and environmentally responsible Grenada. Therefore, I stand in opposition to this resolution here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Youth Member for St. Andrews Southwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, distinguished guests, and my people of Grenada, good afternoon. Mr. Speaker, would you kindly grant me the permission to go throughout my speech?
Permission granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Picture this, Mr. Speaker. A mother in Birch Grove, St. Andrew, walking through flooded water to get to work. A fisherman in Subies, putting up an empty net over a dying reef. A farmer in Grenville, watching his good soil wash down the hill after one heavy rain. Mr. Speaker, that is not development. That is debt we are leaving for our children. And today, I rise to say we can no longer afford to ignore the cost. That is why I stand in full, unapologetic support of this resolution, the balance between development and environmental protection. The facts. Mr. Speaker, our National Sustainable Development Plan 2035 commits us to balance economy, people, and Grenada. In the resolution, that is Go2. But a heavy focus on construction, real estate, and mass tourism is costing us our land and our sea. The evidence is clear. The United Nations, through ECLAC, which is the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, estimated that Hurricane Ivan in 2004 cost Grenada 212% of our GDP, one storm. And climate experts project that by 2050, coastal flooding could cost small island states up to 10% of their GDP every year if we fail to act. Mr. Speaker, that is not balance. As the Nobel laureate Derek Walcott reminded us, and I quote, "The sea is history," end of quote. If we destroy our sea and our land, we destroy our history and our future. It is important that we address a concern that is often raised, that we must not punish all developers because of the actions of a few. Mr. Speaker, the opposition have tried goodwill, but illegal quarrying still continues. Hillsides are still cleared without proper drainage. The reason is simple. According to research that I did myself through the Ministry of Education, the physical planning unit does not have enough staff to monitor every site. Therefore, voluntary compliance is not enough. We must have mandatory environmental impact assessments for all coastal, hillsides, and large-scale projects. Before we build, we must first understand the damage. That is not bureaucracy, that is responsibility. Mr. Speaker, my team and I have gone through this topic very, very, very thoroughly. And it is critical we examine the full picture. While it is said tourism requires hotels, we cannot choose conservation over jobs. Mr. Speaker, that presents a false choice. The Grenada Tourism Authority confirms that 78% of erode the hills, farming. Around Grenville, with regards to development and infrastructure. Around Grenville, with regards to development and infrastructure, etc. I've heard the concern from the people of that parish. We were not informed. People have a right to know. The people have a right to be heard before any project begins. That is democracy. Finally, Mr. Speaker, before we move forward, we must ask, what about jobs for our youth? Mr. Speaker, the greatest job security we can offer is a Grenada that remains safe, beautiful, and livable for the next generation. A job that destroys our future is not opportunity, it is a burden. As the Honorable Dickon Mitchell, Prime Minister of Grenada, stated at the launch of Vision 75, and I quote, "With Vision 75, we have a roadmap designed to unlock this potential and lead Grenada into a brighter, more prosperous future," end of quote. Mr. Speaker, that roadmap is a National Sustainable Development Plan 2035, and it tells us clearly we must develop, but we must develop sustainably. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I urge a yes vote. Vote yes, not because we are against development, but the opposition side is for smart development. Vote yes for enforcement over excuses, for planning over panic, for care
Honorable
over quick
member.
gain.
Mr. Speaker, the opposition member that is speaking.
Honorable member, do you stand on a point of clarity or a point
Sorry,
of order?
my bad. I am standing on a point of clarity.
All right. Honorable member, do you yield?
Honorable member, no, sorry, Mr. Speaker, I do yield.
All right. So, honorable member, please proceed.
The opposition member that is speaking now, he did mention that we are not developing enough, or he's against the development, but at the same time, within his speech, he's still stating that we need to develop more to create better jobs. So I'm a bit confused. Which one would he like for us to assist with? More development for jobs, or to have both of them work hand in hand?
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, you can choose whether or not to respond or proceed with your...
Mr. Speaker, I would respond. Mr. Speaker, the resolution serves quite well, which is the balance, that keyword there, balance, between the economic impact assessments and it's basically balance, right? Not the cost of development, right? My speech incorporates balance. It does not talk directly about the cost. If I stated jobs for our youth, then I state points after that that represents what the opposition is serving for. It doesn't go against or for. We are for balance, not against balance. If you listened carefully, my last statement said that the opposition is not against development. We are for smart development, which means that we are trying to tell you the implementations that can be in place for better development. The opposition side, the government body, sorry, right, was just stating things that are in place, but they wasn't really going into detail as to what it is exactly they are trying to implement into the country. So I am here to indicate that there are development that we are putting in place that makes sense. Right? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I may proceed with my speech. Mr. Speaker, that roadmap, which is Dickon Mitchell's statement, is our National Sustainable Development Plan 2035. And it tells us clearly we must develop, but we must develop sustainably. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I urge a yes vote. Vote yes, not because we are against development, but because we are for smart development. Vote yes for enforcement over excuses, for planning over panic, for care over quick gain. Let us tell Grenada, let us tell the world that Grenada is not for sale. Grenada is to be protected. Let us tell St. Andrew, your hills, your rivers, and your children's future will be protected. Development must not come at a cost, Mr. Speaker, and there is a cost. And the true cost of development, the true cost, Mr. Speaker, 10 seconds to wrap up my speech, please.
Honorable member, that's a serious gamble. I shall give you the 10 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The true cost, Mr. Speaker, is what we pay when we develop without wisdom. Grenada must survive. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honorable member. Now, as we move into the right of reply, allow me to enact the standing order number 83, which speaks on the suspension of standing orders so that, because generally for the right of the reply, the mover of the motion is the person who is expected to do the right of reply. However, upon enacting this standing order, it would give leeway so that another member may go forth with the right of reply. So are there any other contributions? Honorable member.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my team, I serve as the rebuttal speaker for the opposition side, right? Mr. Speaker, I've listened to the government body, right? And with all due respect, I am very disappointed, because what I heard from the government is excuses, not answers. They said EIAs will kill jobs. Mr. Speaker, that is fair talking. We are not stopping work, we are protecting work. A hotel that floods in year 2 doesn't give jobs, it gives unemployment. Build it right the first time with an EIA, and the same site gives 20 years of jobs. That's the difference between a paycheck and a career. Mr. Speaker, they said we already have laws, just we need more staff, right? Mr. Speaker, we've been hearing that for 10 years, which I stated in my speech clearly. But drive through St. Andrews today, hills still cut, rivers are still dirty. Voluntary didn't work, goodwill did not work. That's why this resolution says mandatory, balance, before the bulldozer, not after the landslide. That's that keyword there, balance. They said tourism needs construction. We can't choose trees over job. Mr. Speaker, that is the biggest false statement today. 78% of tourists come for one reason, our natural beauty. They come for Grandans, for Molineux, for the Green Mountains of St. Andrew. You have paradise and tourists will go to the next island that still has paradise. We are not choosing trees or jobs, we are choosing trees and jobs. Mr. Speaker, I heard the Minister of Foreign Affairs, right, indicated that she indicated cost, right? She spoke about the cost, where will the money come from? Mr. Speaker, we cannot afford not to. ECLAC, Economic Commission Latin America, Caribbean, told us Ivan cost 212% of our GDP, one storm. The World Bank says by 2050, flooding could cost 10% of the GDP every year if we fail to act. Spending little on prevention today saves us everything tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, the government wants us to build fast. According to the Prime Minister's speech, which I listened very carefully, I realized that she wanted a fast resolution and not a proper, firm resolution with wisdom. She wanted a fast. Let's vote yes to letting people speak before we dig. Vote yes, Mr.
So, honorable members, the question is that the following resolution be agreed. Whereas Grenada's National Sustainability Development Plan 2035 commits the nation on national goal number 3 to environmental sustainability and security, yet Grenada's economy is increasingly dependent on construction, real estate, and tourism-related developments for growth, foreign investment, and employment. And whereas this development, including coastal construction, hillside clearing, and quarrying, has in documented instances been linked to coastal erosion, deforestation, sedimentation of reefs, and an increased risk of flooding and landslides during the rainy season. And whereas the natural environment, including beaches, forests, watersheds, and reefs, constitutes both an ecological asset and an economic asset, particularly for the tourism sector and for the food security of future generations of Grenadians, be it resolved that in fulfillment of its environmental sustainability commitments, the government enhance environmental safeguards through effective implementation of environmental impact assessments and stakeholder consultations as a condition of approval for all coastal, hillside, and large-scale development projects. Those that are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And those of the contrary, nay.
Nay.
I believe the nays have it. The nays do have it. Be it also resolved that the government expand investment in reforestation, watershed management, and ecosystem restoration initiatives, advancing national progress towards Sustainable Development Goal 15 in areas affected by quarrying and land clearing. Those of the opinion say aye.
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 And those of the contrary, nay.
Nay.
I believe the nays have it. Once again, the nays do have it. And be it further resolved that, consistent with government's commitments to strengthen the governance and institutions, that there is public participation through existing consultation mechanisms for development projects that significantly alter the natural landscape. Those of the opinion say aye.
Aye.
And those of the contrary, nay. Once again, I believe that the nays have it. The nays do have it. This resolution has not been agreed.
Adjournment.
Is there any member that will rise to move that the House be adjourned this sine die? Honorable Youth Member?
I second.
So, Honorable Member, the statement is, Mr. Speaker, I move, that the House may be adjourned, sine die.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, I move that the House may be adjourned, sine die.
Honorable Members, the question proposed is that this House stands adjourned, sine die. Honorable Youth Member?
Good evening, everyone. As we come to the close of this program, it is my honor and privilege to deliver the vote of thanks. First and foremost, we give thanks to Almighty God for His guidance and blessings throughout today's program. A sincere thank you to our Prime Minister, Honorable Dickin Mitchell, and our Minister of Tourism, Honorable Adrian Thomas, for your presence and your continued commitment to empowering the youths of Grenada. Special thank you to our Chief Youth Officer, Ms. Janelle Edwards, and the Ministry of Youth for your leadership and dedication in making this possible. A thank you to Ms. I do apologize if I do forget your portfolio, but Ms. Savelle Francis for your presence here today. To all the participants, thank you for your enthusiasm, confidence, and active participation. You are the reason this program was such a success, and we condemn each of you stepping forward to develop your leadership skills. We are also grateful to Ms. Jocelyn Latouche, Principal of Corinth Government School, and Mr. Paul, Principal of Westerhouse Secondary School, for your assistance in giving the youths a place to have this meeting. To our dedicated community outreach associates, Renasha Alexander, Kalisha Samuel, Cassidy Simon, and Crystal Mason, thank you for your hard work and support throughout this program. A special thank you to our Youth Parliament representative, Mr. Tyreek Miller, for your guidance, encouragement, and mentorship. We also extend our sincere appreciation to Javon Bartholomew and Mr. Michael Lambert for your valuable assistance and support. Thank you to Creative Chef for your refreshments and Mr. Scott Hunt for providing transportation and helping to ensure that everyone reached home smoothly. A final heartfelt thank you to Ms. Melise Ogilvie for your support and dedication throughout this training. Thank you to everyone who played a part in making this Youth Parliament program a success. Thank you for investing in the youths of Grenada. Your support is deeply appreciated. God bless you and have a safe journey home.
Honorable members, the question proposed is that this House stands adjourned, sine die. As many as are of the opinion, say aye. Aye. And those of the contrary opinion, say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes definitely do have it. The business of the Youth Parliament of the Parish of St. David stands adjourned. Sine die. May we all rise?
do the whole band for me, please.